Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 16 of Code Geass. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. Last we left off, Lelouch, despite ostensibly being at a sizable disadvantage, managed to bamboozle Mao and essentially organize a police firing squad to take him out, which is pretty remarkable seeing how he was comprehensively bamboozled when they met the first time. I guess if nothing else, this really goes to show that Lelouch is capable of learning and adapting tactics when things are less than advantageous. So at this point in time, I feel like there's a fair few plot threads still dangling, because there's that whole bit with Villetta. You know, she was essentially like taken prisoner by Ogi when she otherwise would have bled out. You know, there's this whole business with Cornelia, which I'm sure Lelouch isn't done with yet. You know, I'd imagine he still wants to, if nothing else, neutralize her. I guess the question remains, like, what plot thread's going to get focused on now? So interestingly, we're focusing on this guy. What was his name? It was like Guithard or something like that. It struck me as sort of like a French name, but, you know, it's sort of unclear whether or not he's a spy, although something tells me he might be. Or perhaps he's just performing in his capacity as what he normally does, you know. Oh, I take that back. I guess he was reporting to Lelouch. Huh. So I suppose there's also, you know, essentially like a third group here, the Chinese Federation. They've been mentioned briefly, and Mao was, I guess, supposed to have something to do with that, but, I mean, I guess it would make sense that they would oppose the Britannian Empire as a rival power, but we haven't seen too much of them. You know, I can't imagine, based off of what I know of history, that they'd be too torn about what's happening to the 11s. You know, they probably wouldn't care. Ooh. Man, you know, I'm wondering if this is going to be emblematic of the differences between Lelouch and Suzaku, because essentially, you know, they're walking through an abattoir, essentially, and it's like, you know, not only she can't see, but she knows something's up, and Lelouch is like, oh, it's a garbage dump. It is a lie, but I feel like as lies go, it's certainly a harmless one. Alright, well, I guess that wasn't going to demonstrate what I thought it was, but maybe more that in their own ways, Lelouch and Suzaku are, dedicated to peace and opposing the Britannian Empire. I guess in their own ways. Ooh. Suzaku might have spilled the beans a little bit, basically saying like, oh, I've been busy with work because of the Order of the Black Knights. I'm pretty sure Lelouch at this point is not aware that he's the pilot of Excalibur. Or the Lancelot, I should say. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure that is, classified to some degree. It's not something Suzaku should be trumpeting about, saying, hey, I'm the cool pilot of this nifty, state-of-the-art war machine. I guess if nothing else, despite their opposing moral views, Nunnally is still someone who grounds both of them. And I guess seeing as how she's being brought up so much when she's, oh dear. I was going to say maybe not a non-entity, but, yeah, this isn't good, I guess Mao survived being shot, a dozen or more times. Rather tenacious of him, but, that Nunnally is essentially what grounds Suzaku and Lelouch. That doesn't bode well for her. Because Lelouch at this point, he's essentially doing everything for her, and essentially if the rug were to get pulled out from under him, I feel like, he might go off the deep end, because he's already done some pretty despicable things. Yeah, this is, decidedly not good. Because I feel like, Mao's already sort of proven that he's not a really good person, seeing as how he intended to hack off all of C2's limbs. But, preying on the blind, that's something. And I feel like if Lelouch wants to settle the matter, he's really going to have to go out of his way here, I'm almost surprised that Mao's being so upfront about this, that, hey, this is a game between the two of us, but I guess, seeing as how he would want revenge, it makes sense that he would taunt him. Oh. That's an interesting point, that he ordered the cops to shoot rather than to kill. I think it's easy to confuse one for the other, considering how many people shot him. But, man, I guess that begs the question of, who helped him? Because he very clearly couldn't have been in any fit state to walk away and seek out help himself. Oh. Alright, this episode was tense so far, but now there's Pizza Hut. Everything's back to normal. Life is good again. So, Callan, she's running cover for Lelouch and Shirley here. And I don't think she would know. Surely she wouldn't have any reason to know. I just find it a little bizarre that everybody's just going along with the story Lelouch presented. It really does seem like a rather flimsy story. Yeah, I feel like maybe they should ask him what's going on, because he is acting kind of strange lately. Ooh. So I think that's definitely a calculated move to extend the time limit, just because, he knows Lelouch is struggling here. And I guess that's the interesting thing, like, Mao has to be somewhere within 500 meters, but that's also a pretty big distance, you know? So Villetta here, she hasn't left the house, which is good, you know. Things would probably get a little, spicy if she were to leave the house and be spotted and all that. But at the same time, you know, that she's still an amnesiac, like, I guess that's kind of a good thing for now. It's, you know, one more chess piece off the table, so to speak. But I feel like, it's basically another shoe waiting to drop, because when she does remember, then I do believe she knows Zero's identity. Like, that's a pretty sizable sort of Damocles to have hanging over your head. And I guess, you know, I was kind of right in that Nunnally has effectively brought Lelouch and Suzaku together. But to what end, you know? Like, I feel like there's going to be something of a moral dilemma that they each handle differently. I mean, already, like, Lelouch is trying to hack into school infrastructure, and Suzaku's like, no, you shouldn't do that, but, you know, I feel like when it comes to saving Nunnally, maybe breaking a few school rules is, probably an acceptable lapse in morality. Yeah. I mean, it's good they're being cautious here, because Mao's definitely playing for keeps considering Lelouch had him shot. Now that's, wow. That's rather remarkable to outrun machine gun fire like that and to be able to, you know, kick something off its mounting bracket. Like, I can't imagine... I don't know. Like, normally, like, mounting brackets are generally pretty strong, you know. It takes a fair bit to break them. Oh. Oh, okay, a bomb. I thought... Okay, maybe this is just my imagination, but I thought it was like a brick suspended over Nunnally's head, like the sword of Damocles. Like... Okay, but like a bomb, I guess that does make more sense, and that is, you know, probably worse than a brick. I guess just like in my mind, the thought of like the brick of Damocles hanging over the head of a blind person, like, I think there's a small degree of inherent humor just because something like that's so horrible. But, I guess I'm kind of glad it's more serious ultimately. Although, the bomb does look like it's, CG, and I'm having, like, a hard time sort of putting it in perspective with the rest of everything else. Like, it's... In some shots, it seems, like, relatively small, like the size of a brick, but in other shots, it seems rather large. I don't know. Maybe that's just a fault of, CG from nearly 20 years ago. That's a weird thought, isn't it? You know, Code Geass is swiftly approaching 20 years old. I mean, I guess that's the curious thing about it, because so far I think most of it holds up rather well. There are the occasional thing that stands out, you know, the CG for instance, and like the Clamp character designs also kind of stand out to me, but that's because I don't really like them that much. But, you know, in terms of animation and storytelling and all the stuff like that, you know, Code Geass has been rather enjoyable. So Lelouch has sort of figured it out, I guess, that, you know, he has an idea of where Mao must be. But again, just going there and confronting him one-on-one, I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. but at the same time, I don't know if another gambit like before is going to work, where essentially he counts on the students to cause a disturbance, essentially. Oh. So that's interesting. A game of chess, and one that's, obviously rigged in Mao's favor. Now, I guess it was about time we got to see Euphemia and Cornelia again. It's interesting that they're effectively, at peace. Normally when we see Cornelia, she's in a nightmare frame, causing havoc, but that she would essentially relax and recline like a normal person, that's a side of her we haven't really seen. I guess it makes more sense for Euphemia, considering that she's more like a conventional princess, shall we say. Ooh. It's interesting that Cornelia is concerned about Lelouch and Nunnally, and it seems like she doesn't know they're alive. So that's interesting, because up until this point, we've only really seen Cornelia as essentially like a heartless military officer, essentially, But that she cares about Clovis is interesting in and of itself, but that she also cares about Lelouch and Nunnally, that's also interesting. I mean, it's especially ironic considering that Lelouch is essentially the person causing all the trouble. She's sort of equating like getting rid of Zero as avenging Lelouch and the others that she thinks are dead. Yeah, so I feel like there really isn't much of a way to win this game. Yeah, so I'm wondering, what is this meant to prove, really? A chess game where you know precisely what your opponent's thinking at all times. It's really not a fair game. I think it really is just to, essentially to just, put Lelouch through the ringer. Huh. It's interesting that Lelouch is so distraught. I mean, I guess, it would make sense. He's in essentially a losing situation where nothing he does will really work, and, more to the point, Nunnally's life is on the line, which seems to be the one thing he really does care about genuinely. I mean, he's even willing to swallow his pride, although, I do feel like maybe this is a bit performative. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if this was all essentially an act to just try and, Oh. So I feel like at this point, the appropriate thing to do might be to, slap the other side of the scale here, or maybe like throttle the guy rather than like collapsing to your knees. I mean, I guess the good thing is that Suzaku can be counted on. I mean, seemingly he's disarmed the bomb and managed to arrive at the nick of time. Ooh. Oh dear. So it seems like everything almost relied on chance. Huh. Oh. Okay. Ooh, that's a wrinkle, alright. To be able to use the Geass on yourself to mask your own memories, and for that to have worked. Wow. You know, that's something. Although I feel like that's really only a trick you can pull once if all the other rules hold true. Man. So I guess not only he's safe now, but that still leaves the question of Mao. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, surely you've got to just, like, put the guy out of his misery by this point. Oh. Oh dear. So for Suzaku to have killed his father, as Mao says, something tells me this isn't quite true, but... oh dear. So that's something. You know, I guess Suzaku's current moral beliefs are really founded on something. And I guess for Mao to air out all this dirty laundry, you know, that's a rather foul thing to do, and I feel like he might pay for it. I mean, you really shouldn't kick him in while he's down. Oh. I guess rather than kicking him in while he's down, I guess you shouldn't drop your guard either. So, what's Lelouch gonna do, you know? Ooh. Man, that's, unfortunate for Mao, for, C2 to just do him in like that. I guess it is kind of fitting that it was her who did it, but, oh dear indeed. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.